All right. Hey, starting video 2 with Chris Sewall. Thanks for tuning back in here. Chris and I were just talking offline about Dwight Evans. During the last video, Dwight Evans, we talked about how much WAR he had, 67 WAR in his career. I think he'll probably go into the Hall of Fame. Chris was asking about why he didn't get more consideration. I think that it's because he only hit 385 home runs, and back then, the voters really valued 400 plus, really 500 home runs and higher batting average. His career batting average was 272 because he was an OBP guy. He was a
Yeah.
fielder. But yeah, it's an interesting
No, I
looking
mean,
back on how that's changed.
I got him. Like, I'm thinking of like recent, Tony Perez and Orlando Cepeda. These guys didn't get 400 home runs, but they probably had very similar total career numbers to Evans. But I don't remember Evans ever getting like real consideration. So I was surprised to hear his WAR was that high.
Yeah, but how many World Series did those guys win?
Oh, well, Perez won a bunch. Yeah,
Right.
true. Both of them won a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and that's another thing.
is that really considered for? I guess. I mean,
Uh,
if you're like the fourth best player on your team and you win 3 World Series, I don't think you should get any credit for it. No offense.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
So thanks again for joining me for the second half of this. If anybody's just joining for this one, also go back and watch the first half of this where we talked about modern baseball cards. I want to talk a little bit about modern baseball and the rule changes. We alluded to the rule changes in the last video, but first of all, the pitch clock. What's your take on the pitch clock?
I mean, it's like we talked about a little bit. I like it. Probably a lot of people will not like it, especially a lot of older, long-term baseball hardcore super fans from a long time. But I think it's a necessary change. And yeah, to me, games are too long, and so I think that's a good idea to speed it up in some way.
Yeah, and people say, well, we don't need a clock in baseball. Well, there's supposed to have always been a clock. The umpire was always supposed to be counting the time between pitches, and they just stopped doing that, stopped enforcing that because hitters wanted to take more time and pitchers wanted to take more time. But there was always that rule on the books.
Is that true? I didn't know that. Like from way back in 18, whatever.
Yeah.
It
makes
sense, right?
Yeah, Theo Epstein, when he took over I don't know what he is now, but they said to him, we need to improve baseball. And he said, one of the things we want to do is pitch clock.
Yeah.
So, and then the bigger bases is another one they're saying is going to increase stolen bases. And it has in the spring training, and it did in the minor leagues last year. And it's supposed to also improve or reduce injuries too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't really given that one much of a thought. Increasing stolen bases, it doesn't seem, because it's just like 2 inches closer, or
yeah, I think it's 1.5 inches each way, so a total of 3. I might be wrong, but I think it's that. And they're saying that that little margin is going to increase stolen bases. It'll increase infield hits, so there's more of a premium on faster players than there has been in 30 years, probably.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, your immediate thought is 3 inches. What does that do? But yeah, think of all the times you see, it's that close. The hand and the glove arrive at the exact same time. If all those marginal ones are now safe instead of borderline, I guess that could play a difference. Yeah, safer. I think safer will make the safer one makes more sense to me as well. Like, just get those hands away from those cleats.
Right. Yeah, and having runners as the runner is running to first base, and they collide with the first baseman who's got his foot, end up hitting their Achilles or whatever. Yeah.
So this is totally a tangent, but I recently had a conversation with a friend where if you were inventing baseball today, and you wanted to basically keep everything, you want to keep the whole spirit of the game and the idea the same, but you want to just make it more exciting, you would probably have fewer innings, or one idea would be like you have fewer innings, but you do 4 outs per inning. And that would just, I don't know. I don't know if, like, obviously they're not going to make a change like that. But just like in theory, if you were starting baseball today, you might do something like that as opposed to make it more scoring and faster. I don't know.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, Bob Costas wrote a book on how to improve baseball or something like that. And I read it, and he had a lot of really, really good ideas at that time. I don't remember what any of them are, but I remember thinking, man, if they did some of these, this would be awesome.
Yeah.
Not much help here, am I? I also want to touch on a little bit. You mentioned in the last video that you had a Johnny Damon story.
Oh
Was
yeah,
it Johnny Damon? Yeah.
it was Johnny Damon. Okay, so I was at an Orioles game. I guess late '90s would have been. I was there with my girlfriend at the time, who was a fun girl, we'll call her. And she, so Johnny, we were like we were in the outfield, but in the first row of the outfield. We had amazing seats. And Johnny Damon was right in front of us playing outfield, and she was like just heckling him like crazy because she didn't know anything about baseball, but I had dragged her there, and she was having fun with it. So she was heckling him, and at one point he was ignoring. He was like doing very good tuning her out, but he had to have heard her. But at some point he made like a sliding catch, and he got dirt all over his backside, and his whole back of his pants was covered in dirt. And she was just going on about this, and then hey, nice backside there, Johnny. Go take a shower, whatever. And at some point, he switched pants in the next inning. He came out with a clean pair of pants, and she was like, "Oh, much better, Johnny, much better." And then he turned and waved and thought that was funny.
Nice. Johnny Damon was a blast as a player.
Yeah.
He was, when he played for the Red Sox, they were called the Dirt Dogs at that time because they weren't afraid to get dirty. Trot Nixon was another one. Johnny Damon. They were a lot of fun.
I definitely undervalued him because I was way low on his WAR in the
56.
I wouldn't have thought he was. I mean, that puts him in. You gotta take a look for the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't have thought that he was a border. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but you have to consider him if he's got 56 WAR.
Yeah, I think his fielding was above average, although his arm was well below average. There's a classic Red Sox clip of Johnny Damon throwing the ball in, and he was left-handed, throwing the ball in, and Manny Ramirez, 15 feet away, diving to catch it to be the cutoff man because Johnny Damon's arm was so weak.
Oh.
Yeah, it was bad. But he was a great base runner.
Yeah, right.
You do a lot of talk about players going into the Hall of Fame. Who do you think are the now sure things, or if they have like one more great season?
Who are active today?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can help me out with this. I mean, obviously Trout is. I think he's in. Actually, whenever I say that, like Trout retires today, he's in. I get a lot of people in the comments say he's not, which surprises me because to me he's already
first ballot.
I mean, I don't even think he could have like a whole bunch of bad. If he had a bunch of bad seasons, I don't think he could tarnish that. He's got just too many MVPs, too much WAR, too many
80 some odd WAR,
too much hardware. There's just I think he's a no-brainer as is. He's the easy one. Nolan Arenado, I think is really close. I think is well, actually, he's one of the one I'm going to give you, so don't look him up.
Okay, I will not look him up. Yeah, I agree. He's borderline right now. Another season or two, he's in.
Yeah, and he's got like 10 Gold Gloves. I don't know if it's 10, but it's approaching 10 Gold Gloves. He would have to really fall off to not get in. Mookie Betts, I think, is almost there. Let's see who else.
Paul Goldschmidt.
Paul Goldschmidt's getting close. I wouldn't put him in. I did a video recently where it was like locks.
Yeah, I watched that.
Louise, whatever it was. I think the only locks were Trout. I mean, Pujols and Cabrera.
Scherzer,
Verlander. I might have had like Greinke in the locks at this point.
Yeah,
I think there was another that might actually be it. But then the next category was like the probablys. Was Mookie Betts, Arenado, Manny Machado.
Machado's young still. He's like 28.
Yeah, and he's far along with WAR. I guess he could be Fred Lynn. But he's far along with WAR.
And now they're stacked. That lineup is stacked. If Soto can come back and have a good season, Tatis, I think, set to miss 20 games this season.
Yeah,
they're stacked.
Yeah. I think Goldschmidt is there. Freddie Freeman is pretty close to that category, if not in there.
Oh, yeah.
Who am I forgetting? I'm trying to think if there's another pitcher of note. No, yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. Can you come up with any others?
No, those are the guys on my mind too. And then you think about guys like Acuna. You mentioned him in the last video,
Yeah, yeah.
who has had certainly the start to a career, even though he's been injured a bit. Vlad Guerrero Jr. If he doesn't
Yeah.
have he doesn't have the body type that's going to hold up in all likelihood, kind of like a Zion Williamson.
Sure.
But yeah, it's that's my favorite argument of all is who's going into the Hall of Fame, who deserves it, who doesn't.
Yeah.
Every time I mention that I mentioned this in my last video with you. Every time I mention that I don't think Jack Morris deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, I get a lot of mostly in jest comments, but some people get really upset.
Would your Hall of Fame, because I love all Hall of Fame talk, because Hall of Fame is so fun. Would you in your Hall of Fame, would you have more players or less players than are in now?
I would have a little less.
A little less. Okay.
Well, I'd probably have the same. I would just pull some guys that are on the fringe out and put some guys who should be in, like Dwight Evans. I think he should be in.
Replace Jack Morris with Dwight Evans.
Yes, absolutely. Let's get rid of Jack Morris.
Okay. So
I actually,
go ahead.
I don't think Jim Rice deserves to be in, and I'm a Red Sox fan, and I don't
really. You put Dwight Evans over Jim Rice?
Absolutely.
Okay. I would. I mean, I've never pulled them both up and looked, but I would have thought Jim Rice is definitely ahead of Dwight Evans. Rice with yeah, I don't know, maybe not.
Jim Rice has 20 lower WAR, 47 WAR. Wow. Same number of home runs.
Wow, and he was not as good a fielder, right?
Yeah, so not as good a runner, base runner.
How does that plan out? That Rice gets in and Evans,
because he was a feared power hitter and Rice wasn't.
Now that was overrated in the 80s, I guess.
Yeah, Rice led the league in home runs 3 times. He was MVP once, top 5 times.
In MVP?
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. Yep. But his batting average was a little higher. On base percentage was a little lower.
So let me say. I would probably not have either. Well, I would have to look at it closer. But so one argument I like is that can you and it's not a very good.
Can you tell the story of baseball?
Tell the story, right? Of baseball without them. I don't like that argument, but I think it should be a piece of the discussion.
Sure.
Because a player like Roger Maris to me should be in over Orlando Cepeda, for example.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you can't tell the story of baseball without Roger Maris, but you can without. But so let me make the case. I would definitely not have Jack Morris in my Hall of Fame, but you can make the case, and it's a decent case. And here's 2 things you can say about him: the winningest pitcher of the 1980s. Or any other pitcher.
I know the argument, but I'm just going to stop you there for a minute.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to stop you there because he peaked in 1980. If you peaked in 1984, would anybody ever say he was the winningest pitcher from 1984 to 1993? No, nobody would ever say that. He happened to peak with something, the 10 years that coincided with an exact decade.
Yeah.
And he played for a great Detroit Tigers team that won a lot. And so he got a lot of wins. He was a good pitcher. And I don't want to take that away from him.
I'm not arguing with you, but I'm playing the devil's advocate. The other thing you can say is he was the 8th starting pitcher on 3 World Series winning teams.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't disagree with that. In that Game 7, I still have the vision. I remember where I was watching that Game 7 in 1991.
Yeah.
I remember watching it. They kept doing a close-up of his face, and he had this mouthful of chew. And he was so intense. And he was amazing. In that game, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, was it 10 innings he pitched and won 1-0?
Yeah, I think it was that. But I'm not even talking about that game. I'm just saying that game is a historic one. But I'm just saying the 8th starting pitcher on 3 World Series winning teams. I mean, how many pitchers can you say that about? It's not many.
I know.
And let me be clear, he would not be in my Hall of Fame. He wouldn't even be close. But I can see the argument. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. So last time we talked was 7 or 8 weeks ago. Yeah. You mentioned that you really like the Bench Clear Media channel.
Yeah.
Mike Moynihan hosts, and I couldn't remember the name of it. You couldn't. I just want to clear it up. It is the Golden Age of Cardboard,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's great, great video. And it's not a channel because it's part of Bench Clear Media, but great series. I think it's on Thursdays. He has on, like, he just had on this week Dylan of Double D Vintage. Great, great stuff. Strong recommend to my viewers.
Yeah. And they're doing like a Bowman series right now, which is really interesting. The 50s Bowman sets.
Yeah, and he just had on Blue Jacket 66, who has a great channel too. Small channel, but his collection is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And his knowledge is out of this world.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing.
That was good to name it because we didn't get it right last time. That's right.
Yeah, and I texted Mike right after. I said, couldn't think of it, and he's like, "You dummy."
I hate that when you're doing an interview and you're like, "Oh man, that amazing channel," and you can't pull it, and it's like I just was talking to the guy a week ago, and it's like embarrassing. You can't pull it.
Yeah. I was thinking about the best era of baseball, and I think for me the best era of baseball was the 1990s. But that also coincides with my youth, my teenage years. Do you think the best era of baseball always coincides with the person who's arguing their youth?
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely say the 90s too, but just because that's when I was following it. Like, what do you mean? What are the parameters of the word best? Like, just most exciting?
Completely subjective.
Completely subjective, yeah. I mean, I would guess a lot of people would say the 50s. Like historians might say the 50s, right? With Mantle, Mays, Aaron, and Snyder and Dodgers, Yankees every year.
Yeah. When it was New York Yankees, Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would have to think. That would take a while to think about. I'm going to go with the 90s for now. But yeah, I mean, you could say PEDs have destroyed that historical perspective on it.
Yeah, I just think if you ask anybody between the age of, let's say I'm 44, let's say 40 and 80, they're probably all going to select the time when they were 10 to 20.
I think you're right. Yeah. That absolutely. It's like that. I mean, it's like that with anything, right? Music. A lot of people think the best music is from their teenage years and
1990s.
1990s are my favorite movies. I was a big movie buff.
Yes.
Were they really the best in the 90s, or is that just when I was paying the most attention?
Yes, exactly. I think so. In 1995, I was working full time. I was a student. I watched a ton of MTV. That was like peak MTV, actual music videos.
Right.
And I think my superpower today is being able to, when a song comes on the radio, I can say, "Oh, this is this band and this song," and it came out in 1995. And that's the only year I can do that with.
Oh, is 95?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. What are a couple of the big songs from 95?
Oh man, the big songs from 95. You're gonna put me on the spot.
Sorry.
I don't know. I can't do it. But it's like if you ever watched Family Guy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever watch Family Guy? Meg's superpower was being able to make her fingernails grow longer. That's about as valuable as mine. Grow faster. I mean.
Hey man, we all have something.
Yeah, I think the 90s. But then I think about basketball. I think right now basketball is better than it's been in my entire lifetime.
Oh, really? In what way?
It's just much more fast paced.
Yeah.
They're scoring a lot more. A lot of people say, well, they're not allowed to play defense, which I hate that argument. They can play defense. It's just the league wants more scoring because more scoring is more exciting than more stops.
Yeah. I don't like follow basketball daily or anything, but when I watch a game, I always notice because same thing. I was watching big in the 90s. Jordan, who wasn't, but when I watch a game today, I'm always like, all they do is shoot threes. It's like it feels like there's very little strategy to the game. Just find the open three is sort of the strategy.
Interesting fact here. I just read a book called The Mid-Range Theory by Seth Partnow, who was the director of analytics for the Milwaukee Bucks when they won the championship a few years ago.
Yeah. And
he shows that there aren't more three-pointers. While there are more three-pointers now, there aren't fewer post shots. All they did was move the mid-range shot, the 15-footers, out beyond the three-point line.
That's very interesting.
So you still have and I'm just going to make these numbers up, 55% of shots inside of 10 feet and 45% outside. But where before it was 10% of those were 3-pointers, now it's like 35% are 3-pointers.
That makes total sense. And I bet I don't know when that would have changed. Maybe it was a gradual change, but I bet
Steph
analytics.
Curry, 10 years.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I bet analytics helped figure that out. Like the long range 2-pointer is not an efficient shot.
Exactly. Yeah. So nowadays they can say your average points on this shot at this very spot on the court are 0.4. In this spot it's 0.6. In this spot it's 0.9.
No,
so they started saying.
No, sorry, go ahead.
They started saying, okay, we want Kevin Durant still shooting the mid-range because he can hit them at 55%. Jaylen Brown, DeMar DeRozan hitting the mid-range, but we don't want the mediocre guys hitting them because they can make more points on average from a 3-pointer than they can from the mid-range.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned Kevin Durant because I read something some time ago where Kevin Durant paid a lot of money to a big time analytics company to track every shot he takes, explain to him, your best shots are from here, and he adjusted his game based on the analytics.
That's amazing.
So, yeah. If you're off in the corner and you're shooting a 17-footer, you're not very good. But when you're and so he's adjusted his game like that. I imagine there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but I love that though. To have a player who does that.
Yeah. I thought that was cool. Yeah, that makes total sense. The long range 2s have just pushed out to the 3-pointer now.
Right. Yeah. One more discussion here, and then we'll get to the war round, the lightning round of war.
Yeah.
Baseball card inserts.
Mm-hmm.
Best era, also 1990s, right?
Oh yeah, easily.
That's almost like it's not subjective.
I don't even know how you could. I mean, how could you really argue that, right?
Right. What do you think happened? Like back in the 90s, you had chase cards, you had all kinds of inserts, and then they just said, well, we're going to make the same exact card, but it's going to have different colors.
Well, so it's really the late 90s actually, and I would say the early 90s. So the inserts came out for the first time in the early 90s, really, and it took them a few years to sort of figure it out, and then by the late 90s, throughout the 90s, there was the boom in brands. Like I think I've said in like 1999 there was 50 brands, and it wasn't all Topps. There was like 10 different companies. There was a Topps, I don't know how many, there's Topps and Fleer, and at some point they started all like merging, but there were a bunch of different ones. So they were all competing with each other, and they had to get super creative with their insert designs to one up the next person. Today it's all just Topps. So Topps can do whatever they want, and there's nobody who's going to come in and do better.
Yeah. And Topps has like 70 some odd brands now.
Yeah.
Sets, but most of them are obscure. Like,
right.
You'd never see a Topps Pristine at a Target, right?
I don't know, but okay.
You wouldn't. It's most mid-range collectors probably aren't familiar with Topps Pristine or Topps Chrome Black. So
yeah.
Back in the day, though, you could go into Target and you'd see 30 different brands of cards, which you don't really see that much anymore. It's mostly the retail versions of Topps Chrome and Topps Base.
Yeah.
Panini.
Right. I mean, the monopolies, I think, is the answer. Yeah. Like, Topps doesn't need to get super clever or creative, and Panini doesn't either, because who's going to come in and do better? Nobody's allowed to.
Yep. That's a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got Leaf. Leaf, of course, unlicensed, but they do some really cool cards. They have nice inserts that I would probably never buy because they're not licensed.
Exactly. Me too. I mean, that's the unfortunate truth of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that covers all of my questions. Yeah. I think that's it.
You ready for your lightning?
Yeah. Nope. We're covered. We're good. Yeah, let's do the lightning round.
No, you got one more question or no?
Nope.
Okay. All right, you ready?
Yeah, I'm going to be terrible at this.
Are you?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to do just fine. All right, I'll start with your boy Carl Yastrzemski, career WAR.
Wow, that's my favorite player.
Yeah.
I should really know this. I'm gonna say 105.
96.5,
Okay.
which I think was almost identical to Ripken, if I remember. They were both like right there. Your guy and my guy right about even.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ripken 96. Yeah, good call.
And Yaz 96.5. Yeah, Yaz was a stud outfielder, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, whole bunch of Gold Gloves here. All right. Well, the player who had the most hits in the 1990s, as you love the decade leaders, Mark Grace.
41.
Pretty close, 46.
Okay. I think that will surprise a lot of people
That is
because,
high.
yeah, because he was considered a bust in the baseball card world because his rookie cards never panned out because he never became the superstar, but he was still a very, very good baseball player for a long time.
Right. He's a great example. Yeah, that's a great example we were talking in the first video about. The player has a very solid career, 46 career WAR, led the entire majors in hits in the 90s, and his rookie card is a quarter. All right, John Kruk.
I think I asked you about Kruk in the last one.
Oh, did you?
I don't remember for sure. I want to say 30.
Pretty close, 25.
Okay. He was fun, man.
He was fun, yeah. How many?
When Randy Johnson almost hit him with a fastball in that All-Star game.
That was awesome.
92, 93.
So he's just like, I'm not doing this. How many All-Stars do you think he played in?
4.
3. Yeah. All right. Mariano Rivera.
55.
Oh, did you know that one?
No, but I know Rivera's got like the all-time highest reliever WAR.
50.
Is that right?
56.
Whoa, all right.
That is insane for a reliever.
It really is. Like the next highest is like 25 or something.
Well, Billy Wagner, who's like a good chance to make the Hall of Fame, is like 26, I think.
Yeah. I think Wagner should be in too.
Yeah. Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan, I think, is probably lower than people want him to be. I'm going to guess 65.
Well, I totally agree with your first statement. 81.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I would have thought, I probably would have guessed 100.
Yeah, people want him to be that kind of pitcher.
Yeah.
And he just never had the control.
Well, his win-loss record, which I don't know how much that's factored in, is really not impressive.
Yeah. Win-loss isn't, but pitcher WAR is tough too.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a big difference between pitcher WAR on Baseball Reference, pitcher WAR on Fangraphs, whereas with batter WAR, they're almost identical.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah, I stick with Baseball Reference.
Okay, that's what I use, but I didn't even know there was like another good option.
Yeah.
Mark Lemke.
Mark Lemke. Wow. 13.
6.
Okay.
What do you think of when you think of Mark Lemke?
Mullet.
Okay, I think of like an amazing a playoff performance, but I actually don't know the details of it. I just remember he was like an amazing one year in the playoffs.
Mark Lemke, 6 WAR.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baseball Reference is very slow. He had a 71 OPS plus. Ouch.
Yeah. 91.
Postseason batting. 1991 batted .417
in the World Series.
In the World Series.
Yeah, I'm looking at it too. I actually would have thought it was something better, but all right. Nolan Arenado. Told you I was going to give you that one. Where is he?
Yeah. Right I think he's, I would say 60.
52.
Okay.
Yeah, and he had his last year he was 8. That's a pretty close. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And his position gives him that benefit too. He doesn't need to get to 80. to get in the Hall of Fame.
Right. He's got 10 Gold Gloves. I mean, 7 All-Stars and 10 Gold Gloves. You're kind of in the discussion already, right?
Right. And how old is he? 32?
I don't think he's even that old. Yeah, 31. Oh yeah, 32. 32. Deion Sanders.
Wow. -1.
No, 5.
Wow. Okay.
5.5.
Good for Deion.
Good for Deion. Yeah. No hard work. He actually led the league in triples one year.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Sticking with the same theme, Bo Jackson.
15.
Man, I would have. He was 8. I would have thought he was much higher.
A lot of strikeouts. He was so exciting, but that never translated to quality at bats.
Man, I'm like looking at his career. It's just I know he wasn't like a Hall of Famer, obviously, or anything like that. But I would have thought he was more impressive than this.
8.
Only one All-Star game appearance. Yeah.
But didn't he mash a home run in that All-Star game? Like
yeah,
a big home run.
Yeah, he did. But yeah, a career WAR of 8. I would have thought he was.
I would love to have his rookie card autographed.
I remember him being like a major star. But I guess he was in football, I guess.
Yeah, he had a season in football where his average yards per carry was like 6 or 6.5.
Yeah. All right, and last one, Jack Morris.
44.5.
43.5. Did you know that one?
I did, yeah. I looked it up a week or two ago. Yeah, I knew it was right around 45.
That supports the he should not be in. I mean, come on.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. There you go. Not bad at all. Yeah, well done.
Yeah. Chris, this was a blast like it was the last time. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll see you at the National this summer.
I'll definitely be there. So yeah, if you're there, send me an email, text, whatever, we'll meet up.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think I'll be there for 1 day, 2 nights.
Okay.
I haven't, hopefully it's not too late to get a hotel. I haven't done that yet, but.
Okay. There's a small chance I'll have a booth, but probably not.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good.
Cool.
If you ever want to come back on again, love to have you on anytime.
Yeah, it's always really fun. So yeah.
Cool. All right. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it, Chris.
All right, man. Bye.